Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. We all belong to the team of us.
And you are welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. July the 16th, 2022 will go down as one of the greatest days in the history of Irish sport. A first Test Series win for Ireland's rugby team in New Zealand. What a privilege to be alive and witness that. The final score, Ireland 32 points, the All Blacks 22 in Wellington. Ireland's first half just absolutely brilliant. They scored 3 tries through Josh van der Fleer, Hugo Keenan and Robbie Henshaw to lead 22-3 at the interval. New Zealand came out fighting as you'd expect they would at the start of the second half. Artie Savea, Akira Ione and Will Jordan scoring the tries to cut the gap to 25-22. And Ireland had Andrew Porter in the sin bin as well. But Ireland got a second wind and Rob Herring scored their 4th and pivotal try of the game. Johnny Sexton converted it. Ireland had the cushion then to see out the match. 32-22 they win. Let's go live to Wellington now and speak to the former Irish international Alan Quinlan. Quinny, yes, we're just so thrilled as a nation back here at home. What a wonderful day for Irish sport. What was it like to be there, Quinny?
Incredible, John. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm hoarse from shouting and screaming. Just amazing. So many Irish here. They've stayed on after the game. They're all standing around the tunnel area where the players have gone in. The players stayed out for ages. They're singing the fields of Athenry. They're chanting. They're going absolutely crazy. And just the whole experience. And it's surreal, really, because I didn't think what happened last week we could get any better, but it has done. To win a series here, just an amazing situation for the players and the coaching staff. They deserve huge credit, given that, you know, the way things panned out in that first test and the response, the midweek team winning against the Maoris. It just couldn't be any better. 3 out of 5 games won for Ireland. I suppose we knew it was going to be a tough situation, but I think they've surpassed their expectations and just been amazing right across the board, you could say. To play 3 test matches in 3 weeks in a trot like this for the vast majority of the players, and the energy they found there, particularly at the end of the game, to hang on, to come up with some big plays. And you said it at the start, the way they played in that first half was just incredibly impressive. 3 tries, they came out, started brilliantly again, and you know, no big controversial incidents. I think maybe we'll hear about the Andrew Porter tackle on Brodie Retallick. Wayne Barnes gave him a yellow. Could it have been a red? Well, of course it could have been. But I think it was probably the right call. But if you got a red card, you know, they wouldn't. You know, it's one of those ones that can go either way. Wayne Barnes said there was no forward force, that he kind of accepted the tackle. Gave him a yellow card. I'll be interested to hear what Ian Foster says about that after the game. But just the effort out of the players to stay going, to really believe they could do it here. And just it's surreal. It's surreal. 24 years since New Zealand have lost 2 home games on the trot, and that was against South Africa and Australia. So Ireland have broken all kinds of records here and achieved just the unthinkable, really. James Lowe said it after the game. He was interviewed. He said it's just unimaginable what's after happening, and it's really special for the players. They put in some shift here for the last couple of weeks, and they got their just rewards. And as you said as well, it's history. It's probably the greatest 2 of the greatest results that Ireland have ever achieved, because they've never been here. And I suppose when we pick through the bones of it, you could argue and say that New Zealand were really poor, but Ireland made them look really poor in the first half. And the reaction here will be so much pressure on the coaching staff for New Zealand and a lot of question marks. But it's about Ireland now, and they were just amazing and absolutely brilliant couple of weeks.
We've had some great days in Irish rugby. Quinny, you know, as a man of the match yourself in a European Cup final, Munster against the All Blacks 1978, Ronan O'Gara's drop goal 2009 against Wales, winning a Grand Slam at Twickenham in 2018. But this, like, New Zealand hadn't lost a test series since 1994 to France. This must go down as the greatest day for Irish rugby, Quinny.
Yeah, I think so. It does, and the players deserve all the credit. I think they've been a credit to themselves. The way they've played, how brave they've been, the accuracy, the fight they've shown, and they earned the respect of the New Zealand team and people. I think everywhere I've gone this week, I a little bit pessimistic. I thought it just maybe was a step too far to find another performance, but they did. But everyone I met on the streets were convincing me that, Ireland can do this. The New Zealand supporters, and they really, so Ireland are after gaining so much respect here, and it's just an incredible achievement, really. It's very, very sad after the match is finished. The players are probably just pinching themselves, and these are the great moments for players, and for sports people, when you win something special and you can go into a dressing room afterwards and just get that feeling of joy and elation for the sacrifice, the commitment. A lot of the team have young kids at home, wives, partners, girlfriends, and they'll just be beaming for weeks and weeks and months after this, and it won't ever be forgotten because they've created history, winning for the first time last week, but actually winning a series here. It's just phenomenal when you think of what they've achieved, and hopefully they can kick on now, and the World Cup is 14, 15 months away, and build and get stronger. I think a lot of the young players that were in the squad will really benefit from being part of this. They mightn't have played in the test matches, but the win, as I said, in midweek against the Maori here in Wellington was really, really important as well. So I just love the fact, and I've said this so many times, Andy Farrell and the rest of his coaching staff deserve huge credit. Paul O'Connell, Simon Easterby, John Fogarty, the Mike Catt, he's come under a bit of criticism there maybe 14, 15 months ago. This team has just got better and better, and they've shown a real steel and a resolve to back themselves to come down here and win a series. And I think it was incredibly hard fought in the second half. I think the All Blacks came out and they were ferocious. They were aggressive. They were more direct. To score 3 tries themselves, and I think when Will Jordan scores a try, you fear the worst. Jordie Barrett missed the conversion, so it still stayed 3 points. But Rob Herring goes up the field, and he gets that try. He broke off the maul. I went, oh no, but it was collapsing, and he did remarkably well to get the ball down. So huge effort from the players. I think it's just a really incredible achievement, and they deserve all the credit themselves. They've probably, a lot of these players have had very high moments in their careers, but they've had, to deal with a lot of disappointments. And I think along the way, the last World Cup was, 2019 was a bad year for a lot of these guys. I suppose disappointment of not winning a Grand Slam, losing in France, but the last 12 months has been brilliant, last November. So it's just hard to think, John, the last 4 times we've played the All Blacks, Ireland have beaten them 3 times. It sounds strange, doesn't it? But that's happened, and it's incredible.
It's hard to get your head around, isn't it, Quinny? Our rugby coverage, thanks to Vodafone, proud sponsors of the Irish rugby team. We all belong to the team of us. And look, there was always going to be a backlash from the All Blacks. We knew that was coming after the break, but the platform was set in the first half with that 19-point lead, Quinny. We were clinical in our execution. We forced them into mistakes. We put pressure on them, and our tries, 3 tries in the first half, just 3 excellent tries.
Yeah, really good. I think the pressure on the lineouts, 3 or 4 stolen lineouts in that first half, forcing mistakes and errors again from New Zealand. And not the tries were incredibly impressive, John, but I was really impressed with the way Ireland defended in the moments in that first half when New Zealand were trying to attack and get a bit of width in their game. Robbie Henshaw, Bundy Aki came up with some really big tackles. James Lowe, Hugo Keenan was just rock solid at full back. Matt Hansen as calm as could be. So I think they organised their defence really well. They were really, really aggressive when the opportunity came to knock New Zealand players backwards. The kick chase, when they kick the ball up the field, the back 3 from New Zealand, they turn around, they're thinking of counter-attack, and there's a wall of green jerseys in front of them. So, and sometimes when that happens, when you put in such a high-octane half, the inevitable can happen. You lose it a little bit, and maybe Ireland got it a little bit wrong. They weren't as firing on all cylinders in the second half. But sometimes it's very hard to stop that wave and that comeback that we see a lot in sport. But they fought like real warriors out there. I think it was they were hanging on for dear life at times, and Ty Byrne came up with some really, really big plays at the end. Josh van der Fleer tackled so hard all day. Peter O'Mahony was in there for locals. I thought James Ryan had a brilliant game today. His best game in an Irish jersey in a while. He made so many tackles, carries, but right across the board. It's unfair to be singling out players, because when you win a game like this, you've got to have big performances right across the board. And Gibson Park, just his decision making, and he made 2 bad decisions in that first test, and I tell you, he's been incredible since. And they were just amazing, and the impact off the bench as well.
Yeah.
So I think they can take so much credit from this, and whatever happens at the World Cup, I think the focus will switch. They have games in November now, and the planning will continue to try and make sure that when they end up in France next year, that they can get out of their group and maybe get past the quarter final. But look, the here and now is special, and it's surreal. To win 2 games here and win a series in New Zealand is just amazing.
How do we turn it around from that first test, Quinny? Because we were torn apart in the second quarter of that first game to New Zealand. We were thinking about, it's the end of the long season, players are fatigued. But suddenly we've turned it around. What has been the key to that, do you think?
Well, I think the key was, John, they conceded 4 tries in that first half against New Zealand, and there was a couple of defensive errors. They lost the ball for the Sevu Reece one when he goes the length of the field. I think a little bit unlucky when the ball goes loose and Peter O'Mahony just gets away from it. Sevilla gets the ball down just before half time. And then I think what made them feel good about themselves, the team, is the way they played in the second half. Gary Ringrose scored and give them a bit of hope, and then they're held up over the line. Bundyaki scores as well, and they're held up over the line 5 or 6 times. I think that made them feel that if they get their set piece right, they had some issues, and that can happen any team at any time. Some days it just goes awry on you. They got their scrum right the second week and their line out. They were able to launch some attacks, and their continuity was really good at the breakdown. New Zealand struggled to get the ball. They could not get the ball off them in that first half when Ireland were on the attack, and it was Ireland that was putting pressure on their breakdown. So slowing it down, Aaron Smith, usually has the ball back really quickly. His passing is so slick, and they stretch teams, and slowing the ball down for that 2-3 second period, it enabled Ireland to get numbers in their faces, and they did it last week and did it again tonight. So that's why you analyse the matches. And I think the feeling after that first test, John, was that if Ireland can fix some things, they can make more. And I said it, I think, and that was the feeling amongst the Irish squad as well, that if they could fix some things, which inevitably sometimes it goes wrong in a game for you, an opposition steals some lineouts, your scrum creaks a little bit, you don't get your feet right, your body positions, you put a big focus on getting them right, and Ireland did that, and so that was the key to their success. Their line out, their scrum, and their breakdown. And I think Ethan C was on commentary with me, and he kind of highlighted last week about Ireland needed to get their spacing right in defence. They got a little bit narrow at times in that first test. So there are things you can work on. You can visually be shown that by the coaches and the different sections of the game, and give different facets of the game, and they took that on board. So obviously they identified areas that they needed to get better. And but look, John, rugby is first and foremost, you've got to win collisions, and you've got to be physical, and you've got to be aggressive, and you're up against a really aggressive physical team who, when they dominate you in the collision areas, they can tear you apart. So Ireland had to get that right as well. So a number of areas that we highlighted and spoke about, and Ireland were very vocal and open about that in the press. And the sending off last week and the yellow cards, but I just think Ireland, their attitude was brilliant as well. So you have to believe it, John. You have to believe it. Sometimes you can kind of get a spiritual, emotional, high-pitched performance, and you can reach incredible highs, and the opposition can make lots of mistakes and things go wrong for them. But like, Ireland have backed this up now. That's the most impressive part. They backed it up to come out this week and win a series here, which shows that they did believe it after that first test, and they turned things around, and it's incredibly impressive. But there's question marks about the coaching here and the detail and the way the All Blacks played. They kicked the ball away a lot. A lot of the time they tried to run around Ireland in that first half when they're on the attack and didn't get anywhere. I think the frustrating part for them was they look at that second half when they were direct around the fringes. They got over the gain line and they caused Ireland some problems. But Ireland were tactically just absolutely brilliant in what they did.
Johnny Sexton turned 37 this week, Quinny. He's now over 1,000 points today after his kicking, and his leadership again, once so crucial.
Yeah, and his general play was superb. So I think, he's led the team remarkably well, and I think it's a testament to his leadership as a captain and the way he's played as well. So, I think it's something that's you've got to give him huge credit for, and he's shown the desire and the passion and the energy and the real will to kind of win here with Ireland and keep achieving things at 37. It's amazing. So, it's kind of hard to think of it. He looks after himself very well, but you have to have a real drive and a desire to kind of, be in that position, put yourself in that position.
Sean Fitzpatrick was calling Ireland world class on the television after the game. They know who we are now, Quinny, the All Blacks and the people down in New Zealand.
Yeah, they certainly do. And, as I said to you, right across the board, I met lots of ex-All Blacks and fans, supporters, New Zealand supporters here. And they give Ireland a lot of credit after last week. And they were very humble and decent in their appraisal of Ireland. And for someone like Sean Fitzpatrick to say that. But look, it's the here and now. And, we all fell into the trap a little bit going to the last World Cup because we thought that, there was a great opportunity. It was very disappointing the way it ended. It's happened in other World Cups. But ultimately, the next step for Ireland...
Can it be different now? Can it be different now, Quinny, then, for this World Cup coming up in France?
Who knows, John? Yeah. The reality is it's a harder situation because, Scotland are not going to, fall asleep at the wheel and think, well, South Africa and Ireland are just going to cruise through the group and come out, and Ireland are, just going to go into a quarterfinals. They've got to make sure to get out of the group. The tough part is they play New Zealand or France in a quarterfinal, but winning 3 times in the last four games against New Zealand, and a couple of times it's 16, 18. Just will give them some confidence and some belief that they can if they meet New Zealand. And really grow as a squad. I think you've got to continue to get better, and Andy Farrell, that's the challenge for him and his coach, is to try and develop the squad, get more players chomping at the bit to get in there, make the bench stronger, and even the guys who are not making the bench. So you need a lot of depth. You need a bit of luck as well, and I think people would have liked to have seen Carbery maybe start the test match, but that was probably in a situation where we thought maybe we'd be 2-0 down in the going into the third test, and maybe you'd start him in the third test. But I think just for the here and now, I think it's a remarkable performance, remarkable couple of weeks, and the icing on the cake probably, and maybe obviously winning the series has been brilliant. But I think from a depth point of view, the midweek team and the resilience and strength they showed against a very good Maori team on Tuesday night here was really important as well.
Yeah, and Rob Herring as well. We talk about depth, getting that crucial try. That says a lot about the unity of the team. And remember Peter Mahoney speaking last year, Quinny, about how much they enjoyed playing under Andy Farrell and Paul O'Connell and Simon Easterby and Mike Cash. There seems to be a real unity of purpose, and everybody's backing each other in this Ireland team. Don't know if you could say the same thing about the All Blacks.
Yeah, they look under pressure, the All Blacks. There's a lot of kind of rumblings coming out of the camp. And look, it's an incredibly pressurised environment, John, here. Everybody eats, sleeps and drinks rugby here. And it's a topic of conversation. Every cafe you go into, every bar, every restaurant, all over the streets, everybody's talking about the All Blacks. So, they're in a really pressurised environment here. And for Ireland, they've got a... they've dealt with pressure. I think, John Fogarty deserves credit as well. I'm afraid I'm leaving out any of the coaches because all the different areas, I think, where they put in the work and seen the improvements. And I know from Paul, he hasn't coached me, but having played as a player, the detail and the, to get that first try with them all, he'll be incredibly proud with that. For Rob Herring's one, the line out, the way it worked, the way they defended New Zealand mauls as well was really important. But and the attack for Mike Catt. So right across the board, Andy Farrell has got that right. Things can change in sport very quickly, but we've got to enjoy the here and now and enjoy this moment, because for long enough we couldn't beat New Zealand, and now we're here in New Zealand, and this team have done something really, really special. And I loved the attitude last week, John. I went down pitch side. I was around some of the players, not talking to them, was kind of giving them their own space, but I could hear a lot of them saying, keep it calm. We've got a match next week to win. We've got a match Tuesday night to win. And I could see it, sense in their body language. Andy Farrell, Johnny Sexton, when they did interviews, they spoke about Tuesday night, the importance of that, and the opportunity that presented itself. And I said this to you before, last week, I think, the press conference in Dunedin before the second test. I love the way Farrell said, I want my players to be under pressure. I want to see if they got the stomach for it. And, well, they've certainly shown they've got the stomach for it.
Well, absolutely. In the past, it would have been a heroic Irish defeat, and they would have surpassed our tally of 25 points, and they would have won the game. But we won the game. We won the game by 10 points. The cake tin, I remember 2011, Quinny, against Wales. Such a painful day to watch that match in the World Cup quarter-final. Today, we won there. So fulfilling for the players, for their families, and for the supporters who were there.
Yeah, it's special. It's really special, and a lot of the parents were here. A lot of them travelled out there, and obviously, if your son is playing for your country, it's special. But to be in this kind of an environment here, and the players were able to come out and meet all their family and friends here, and loads of Irish people came over from Australia, lots of them living in New Zealand, and some travelled out from Ireland. But just special moment for all those people as well. To be part of this, to be here, is just something surreal and special. And I think it'll be just interesting to see what the reaction is now from in the New Zealand papers tomorrow. I'll almost bring some of them home with me. I'm travelling back tomorrow night. But, yeah, I will. And it's special. But I had a chat with Justin Marshall after the game, because he's on comms for Sky, and we were chatting, and he really was giving massive credit to Ireland. There's a bit pessimistic, saying, God, can we do it again? Can we do it again? And he was convincing me. He said, I think this is an incredible Irish team. It's as good as I've seen. And the way they're coached, the way they play for each other, the unity they have. Sometimes you kind of get an opinion from somebody else, and from what they've seen, I think they're full of praise for what Ireland have done. And long may it last. They deserve that credit, and it's brilliant for them now. A lot of the Leinster players would have had big disappointments. I think all the provincial players probably would have, if you start going through all the provinces, but particularly Leinster losing that semi-final in the URC and the final in Europe. Munster themselves would have been disappointed not to get into that semi-final. Ulster getting knocked out, Connacht not being there. So it's been a long season, a lot of disruptions with COVID, a lot of doubt about this tour 6-8 months ago. For them to get out here, play it, have some bit of normality, because it is pretty consuming. Players aren't out playing golf or out on surfboards every day, or off go-karting, or doing all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of detail, a lot of work put in, and they were trying to stay in a bubble, because COVID has obviously kind of taken off a bit here in New Zealand as well. The numbers are pretty high, and they've had some COVID in the camp as well. But so it hasn't probably been the most enjoyable tour for them to get out and about and have a bit of leisure stuff in between. But they get the reward for that work, that sacrifice, that commitment, and just a very special kind of couple of months for them now, because this is the joyous part of being a professional rugby player at the end of a long season. I was on lots of tours where you're going home disappointed. These guys can kind of go home and revel in this for a long time, and they deserve it. We're not going to get too carried away and say we're going to win a World Cup, and I'm not going to say that, because I probably had that feeling before that we were kind of heading towards that kind of situation where we become real contenders. But we'll keep that talk to a minimum for now. But the here and now, this is special, and what an achievement by the coaching staff and the players. And it was brilliant. It was really heartwarming to see hundreds of Irish people here. Unfortunately, I'm not saying thousands, but they made so much noise here during the game. There probably could have been a couple of thousand here. but they made so much noise, and to see the scenes at the end, the singing and the chanting and the happiness and the joy that they were experiencing as well was really special.
Well, Quinny, safe home. And before you get home, you're going to have to find those supporters and find where the nearest party is.
We might have a cold one tonight, John. All right. Thanks a million.
Well done, Quinny, and safe home, and thanks for everything. And Alan Quinlan there speaking to us live from Wellington, where history has been made.